Hi there, this is Lene, and today is Art Technique Day, and we'll be talking about spray inks and stencils. First off, we're going to pick some colors of ink. These are the inks that I have in the studio here, and they're organized by color and also in reference to the color wheel. And you'll see I have my little cards I've sprayed in front of every one, so I can pick up a color and say, I like that, what will it go with? And then find another color that I think would be an interesting combination. So these are the two we'll start with. Okay then, let me tell you about the work surface we're going to be working on. This happens to be just a sheet of acetate, clear acetate, on a white working background. You can work on a craft mat, and you'll find these at craft stores. The problem I have with this is the color. When you start to spray right on your surface, as we will be doing, you really only see a brown puddle. It's hard to know what colors that you're working with. So I prefer to work with a clear on top of white so I can see my colors. I'm going to have my book handy, open it up to here, and I'm going to fold it back, and this is ready for my first technique. The first technique has a very fancy name. It's called the Puddle Technique, and you'll understand why. So I've got my Lindy spray, which is iridescent. Following the instructions, I do shake this well before I use it. And I have a violet, and this is not iridescent, so it doesn't need to be shaken. So I'm going to create a puddle. I'm going to spray this 2 or 3 times, and then I'm going to spray the second color, overlap this a little bit, and then stretch it out, and we have a nice, beautiful color puddle happening. Then I come in with some water, and I just hit it up with a little bit of water. This does some blending for us on the work surface. Take my sketchbook and I plop it down. Just give it a press, a gentle press. I don't so much move it around unless you want the look, which is sort of a windswept look. It's all up to you. But right now we're just starting with a gentle, firm push into the puddle, and this is what we get. Isn't that beautiful? And as it dries, that's when the iridescence shows up. Now I'm going to dry this off camera so I'm not wasting your time, and I'm using a heat tool. You could use a hair dryer or you could use a heat tool, doesn't matter which. So see you in a few minutes. Because we still have this gorgeous puddle left over after we've dipped our page into it, this is the perfect time to wipe some of it up on some of your other pieces that you'll be adding to your pages. So we just go ahead and sop up all of that good ink, and we get some wonderful stuff happening. And I always do 2 sides. It gives me 2 choices when it comes to putting it in my book, and oftentimes both sides are actually showing. So it's good to just sop all that wonderful ink up, use the most of your materials, and set that aside to dry. Now you've got just a remainder left. Usually I use a baby wipe to wipe up the excess, or a wet paper towel is fine too. So we'll go ahead and take care of this. Okay then, so we have our dried page and our nice puddle technique there, and our dried tag as well. And you can see some of the iridescence starting to show up because it is dry. I'll set that aside. And now we're going to do the opposite page with the same color palette. And we're going to show you the second technique, which I call, another fancy name, the trippy technique. So I'm going to turn my book like this, getting ready to go. For this trippy technique, I like to capture some of the extra ink as it drips off, because this is very watered down ink by the time it's done dripping, and there's not a whole lot of use for that, as you'll understand as we go along. So the first thing we do, this time we're going to spray right on the journal page instead of on the work surface. So with the same 2 colors, I'm going to give a couple of good sprays, and I'm going to overlap in color with my second color, and this is a little stronger color, and you'll see I've put it kind of to the top of the page, top half of the page, top third of the page. Now you pick up your water bottle You're going to lift your journal and you're going to tip it. I'm going to tip it sideways so you can see this better. And you're going to start to let it run down the page. Now, what you do with your water bottle is you come relatively close to your page and you start hitting it up with different little sprays of water. And you'll get some very interesting things happening as it runs down your page. Now it's up to you when to stop. The more water you put on, the more blended it is. The less water you put on, the more legs that you have dripping down. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there because I like what I'm looking at, and I'm going to dry it off camera. So here are our two techniques, the puddle and the drippy, now dry, and drying time takes 30 seconds to a minute. It's pretty darn quick. And here's our beautiful tag. Now this tag we can wind up putting anywhere on this page. We can punch it with a binding tool called the arc, and we could put it right in the binding so it will flip. Or we can use washi tape. If you don't have a punch, you can use washi tape of your choice, and you can attach this tag any place that it looks good to you, and put washi tape on this side and flip it over and put washi tape on this side. And the washi tape should be the extent of the height. If you exceed the extent of the height, you won't be able to flip it. So I'm going to set that aside yet again because I want to show you how to work then with perhaps the next layer. You can do as many layers as you want. My advice is always that less is more. You can always add, but you can't take away. So I'm going to just be careful in what I add now, and I'm going to take a stencil. This is a nice texture stencil with some dramatic loops, and I'm going to set it over here, let's say like there. I'm going to show you what it looks like to spray right through a stencil. I'm going to go ahead and use my same color palette. I'm going to take the golden brown iridescent color, and I'm going to shoot right through my stencil. Lift it up, and you see some beautiful texturing happening here. Now, this stencil is what I call loaded. It has a lot of great ink on it to be used. So oftentimes I will flip it over, and then I will press down somewhere on the opposite page to create sort of a textured version of the same pattern. I'll press that down and lift it up. Look what happened there. I love it when things happen that you're not quite expecting. You know something's going to happen, but you're not sure what. Let's see, do I have anything left on here? I just might. So what I like to do is, now it's getting a little bit dry, is I'll hit it up with some water to refresh it. And I'll come back in here, or maybe even on my tag, and figure out where I'd like to add a little bit more texture. I think what I'm going to do is go for this upper right hand corner and add a little bit more. Now this will be paler, but a little bit more pattern up here. Press down, and there we go. This is a great start to this spread. I always work in spreads, which is the book is spread open, your left page and your right page, and I always keep them the same color palette so that they make sense when you're flipping through your book at the end. So now this is all I'm going to do on these two pages with ink and stenciling. I will probably build the pages with other elements like rubber stamping, of course, my words, and this will go in here somewhere. So that is it for today. Thanks. I do want to add that this is a little tip about cleaning your stencils. What I like to do is, I don't really like to take a lot of time cleaning my stencils when I'm in the middle of creating pages. So what I do is I take a cookie sheet and I fill it through a low level of water. And I usually keep it handy, and then I just throw my stencil in and let it go ahead and get the excess ink off. And I dry it with a towel, and I just keep this handy to my side, and it's a pretty quick way of taking care of your stencils.